have a wonderful now mother who has courageously come to speak to us about most recently having heard that her newborn was diagnosed. So Tara, thanks so much for being brave and coming. Thank you.
So I am not a public speaker, so I will be reading from a piece of paper.
That's the click of the white.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today to discuss taking care of a newborn with ALD and share my personal experience through this difficult and emotional journey. My name is Meady, and my family's journey started on April 12, 2016, when I gave birth to my beautiful baby boy, Brody Maxwell. His big brother Finn was beyond excited to meet him, as the whole family was. He was stubborn from the start and decided he was not going to make his appearance on time and was 11 days late, and he had a lot of persuading to come and meet us, but when he finally did, we all fell in love at first sight. He was a healthy baby boy with 10 fingers and 10 toes, weighing 7 pounds and 15 ounces and 21 inches long. Such a miracle, and seeing Finn interact with his new brother and best friend was heartwarming. It was an amazing time, but was stopped abruptly when just 2 days after he was born, we were given the news that no parent wants to hear. Brody had tested positive for adrenoleukodystrophy on his newborn screening test. I will never forget this day in my life, and just thinking about it gives me the same gut-wrenching, heartbreaking feelings. Our pediatrician was sent a fax with the results, and when I heard adrenoleukodystrophy, I immediately panicked. I am in the medical field and have never heard of this disease, and the first thing I could do was break down the name, and all that stuck out to me was the dystrophy part. I knew what that meant. That meant my son would eventually be in a wheelchair, and God only knew what the rest of that long, scary word meant. Our pediatrician did not have much knowledge on the disease, but was already reaching out to colleagues and trying to get as much information to us as possible. Her support during this time was incredible, and I still don't know what we would have done without her during those first few months. So after all the initial crying, we immediately did what you probably shouldn't do, and we went to Google. We searched and read as much as we could on the disease. Most of the information you find on this disease on the internet was not reassuring. It discussed all the late symptoms, and there was not a lot of information we could find on the newborn screening. We prayed and prayed for a false positive. We searched for articles or studies on false positives, but could not find what we were hoping and praying for. We were just wishing this was all a bad dream, and we would wake up and Brody did not have ALD. Then we realized that this bad dream could get worse. Our other son could also have ALD, and he was 2.5 at the time. I just felt like with every new piece of information I was getting, it was like a dagger to the heart. Then there was the whole X-linked portion of the disease. I am one of 3 girls, and my sisters all have daughters. I am the first one with boys in my family, so there is no history of ALD in our family. I couldn't believe that I caused this and that I gave my son this horrible disease I was reading about. I couldn't stop blaming myself. It has taken me a while to stop feeling this way, and I'd be lying if I said it doesn't pop in my mind every so often, though I know I had no knowledge of this and would never pass it on intentionally. In the meantime, we went back and forth to our pediatrician, and she would give us new information she received. We were then scheduled with a team of physicians in the area that would care for Brody. The genetics team, who we would see first, would not see us until we had confirmation of the disease through the very long-chain fatty acid test and the genetic test. That would be weeks before we could see them and get more information. This was unacceptable to us. I had reached out to one of my colleagues who is a genetic counselor, and he gave me more information, and we continued to read about the disease. My husband became more knowledgeable about this disease than myself or most physicians we would see. I think his way of coping at the time was emerging himself with information where I wanted to know, but not really, because this just wasn't happening. The genetics team ordered the testing, but would not order it on our eldest until Brody tested positive. This was complete insanity to me. How could you have a parent wait weeks for one son's testing and then wait another few weeks for the other results? Our wonderful pediatrician at the time felt the same way and fought them on this. She also went above and beyond and called the state of Connecticut, who keeps newborn screening cards for a number of years, and asked that they run Finn's newborn card for ALD. They did, and it was negative. But they said they did not know how accurate it was, seeing how the card was older. It was a glimmer of hope. Our pediatrician then ordered the testing on Finn, so both boys had blood drawn on the same day. Then the waiting started. The weeks seemed to drag so slowly. We were trying to enjoy this special time with our newborn when the entire time we were overwhelmed with fear. I remember moments when I would be snuggling my newborn and just sob and sob, over the fear of the unknown, and yet try to hold it back so my other son wouldn't see the tears. The shower in my car became my safe haven for crying. In the dragging weeks, I decided to go on social media to see if I could find families going through the same thing that we were, and I came across ALD support group on Facebook. It is a private group, but once I asked to join, I was connected to one of the administrators that happened to be a newborn screen mother. She immediately gave me her information and told me to give her a call. So that night, I did just that. I called a complete stranger in New York to learn everything she knew and talk to someone who truly knew what I was going through. It was the best thing I've ever done. The phone call changed everything and gave me hope that I had not seen. She told me about her son and his diagnosis through newborn screening in New York and gave me so much helpful information I still use today. I will never forget one thing that she said to me that I've held near and dear to my heart: knowledge is power. We have the knowledge of this disease early, which gives us so much more power. The power to monitor our sons with blood tests and MRIs. The power to stop progression. The power to inform our family members that did not know. We are the lucky ones that were given the knowledge before it was too late. She told me that although it would be a long road with lots of appointments and tests, and of course it would be scary, there was hope. She said our boys will graduate from high school, keep us up at night, not because of ALD, but because they are probably getting into trouble. They will get married, and they will live lives because we were given the gift of knowledge. I got off our over 2-hour phone call with my head spinning from the medical information, but had felt myself breathe deep for the first time since testing positive on newborn screening. I felt a little less scared, and I knew I was not alone. So when the phone call did come that Brody did indeed have ALD, I had already come to accept this would probably be the news we would receive, and I was ready to face it. We were also given the wonderful news that Finn was negative. I have never felt so blessed. This was amazing news, especially after being on the support group and seeing so many families with multiple sons having ALD. Then the next few months are slow blur to me, with all the doctor's appointments, STIM tests, and blood tests. It was becoming a full-time job on top of my full-time job. I was constantly on my chart looking at results and on the phone making appointments and follow-up appointments. Then there was the frustration as the local team of doctors that were chosen for our case did not seem to have done their research. And that was a big problem because we had done a lot of research. We quickly realized that the neurologist we saw did not know the standard of care with a newborn with ALD and certainly did not contact anyone in New York to discuss what they were doing at the time. We were only the second case in Connecticut, and it didn't seem like they were ready for us. That is when we decided we needed a team that specialized in ALD and actually took care of boys with ALD. I spoke to some of the newborn moms I had met on the support group, and that is when we learned about Dr. Eichler and his team. The first appointment changed our outlook, especially after we had seen local doctors that did not have any knowledge. We had such confidence in him and such faith in caring for our precious baby. I felt like Brody was going to be cared for correctly and was impressed by his expertise in just how he treated us and our baby. It was a huge relief. Our endocrine experience has not been so smooth. Brody has had elevated ACTHs from the start and average cortisol levels. He would never stim great, and right at a few months old, they had to start stress dosing him when he was sick. No one could ever really tell me the exact numbers to start daily steroids. His local endocrinologist wanted to start daily steroids right away, but we did not want to start him on a medication he would need to take for the rest of his life unless it was necessary and they were certain it was needed. We then started seeing an endocrinologist with some ALD experience, and she did not feel starting daily steroids was necessary. This became a constant stressor because we were getting 2 different answers and we had to be the ones making the final decision, hoping and praying we were doing what was the best interest for Brody. Brody continued to get frequent blood work, and the poor guy has gone through 3 endocrinologists due to leaving practices. And then one of the moms gave me the name of Dr. Regelman in New York, and she has been a lifesaver. She has helped us so much already, and Brody has since been diagnosed with adrenal insufficiency and is on daily steroids. ALD has definitely changed our lives forever. We now panic a little more when Brody gets sick, even if it's minor. We go through the questions, stress dosing, yes or no. We have to carry his injectable Solu-Cortef and make sure we have his steroids if we're not going to be home at a scheduled time. This has become our new norm. Our son Finn now asks, which hospital is this? The one with the good train or the one at the hotel? The stress before MRIs is palpable and is only relieved once we get the results. I have recently made a career change, mainly driven on health insurance policies. And although this has been a crazy journey, we are so incredibly blessed to have had newborn screening for Brody. Connecticut had only passed newborn screening a few months before Brody was born, and if they were not screening at the time, we could have possibly found out too late and be looking at a different future for our sweet boy. Now we have hope. We are taking one day at a time and living life to the fullest. The little things no longer matter. We cherish every moment and make as many memories as possible. We still can't believe that every state doesn't test for ALD, especially knowing the devastating effects this disease can have on little boys and their families. In the short time that we have joined the ALD community, we have met families and heard other stories of families that have not been as lucky as us and have to go through the unthinkable because they live in a state where newborn screening for ALD is not being performed. Enjoying life with your family and son, and then out of the blue this horrible disease sneaks up on them and they have to watch their sons who have lived completely normal lives deteriorate right in front of their eyes, and some die to something so preventable through newborn screening. We pray every night for those poor families that are going through a heartache no parent should ever have to go through, especially with what we know about the disease and how to prevent the effects. Not only does newborn screening help save the boys, but it also helps family members as well. Some who may have also had ALD or carriers of ALD. Newborn screening can save so many lives, which is why we hope and pray for national screening. For families that have just started this journey, or those that have begun, I can't stress enough how amazing this community is and how supportive. I have been given the chance to meet amazing people through the ALD support group on Facebook, and I have gone to events that have forever changed my life, like Aiden's Ride in Brooklyn and Brian's Hope, the Hammerfest. We try to go to as many local events and support ALD as possible, and it has been a blessing because we have met families local to us that have made bonds, and I know we will have forever. I can text them at 10 p.m. at night if I've had a stressful day, and they get me and totally understand what I'm going through, and they know they can text me anytime too. We work through issues together, and I value their friendships. Talking to those going through similar situations is so incredibly helpful because you also learn new things, whether it's a new study you were unaware of or a different treatment strategy a doctor is using. Any bit of knowledge is just more power. The ALD Connect phone calls have been awesome, and I've tried to be on every one of the newborn calls and have found them very helpful. We will forever be grateful to Elisa Seeger, who started newborn screening for ALD, and Jean Kelly, who fought to have it passed in Connecticut, and to their families. We are also so grateful for the families that continue to fight and help raise awareness even in times of grief and heartache. We can't thank the doctors and researchers and everyone that continues to fight this disease and make huge advantages in knowledge and treatment options. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Please keep up the good work. And then I was just asked some of the challenges that we face. So just getting the information initially, it would be nice if someone would have called us who had some ALD experience or get that information to our pediatrician. Getting family members tested. My younger sister was contemplating having a third child, and the genetic team wouldn't see her until she had a referral from her primary care doctor. Her primary care doctor wouldn't make the referral until she made an appointment to see him, and then the geneticist said even if she got the appointment, they may not test her right at that appointment. So you're looking at 3 appointments for a working full-time mother. Not really that easy. So lucky for her at the time, I was actually working at a fertility center, and they had added ALD to the panel at the beginning of the summer. So I was able to help get her tested, and she is a carrier. So she is going to just be happy with her 2 beautiful girls. Local physicians not knowing the standard of care. This was a huge difficulty that we faced. We felt like they didn't really research it enough, or at least ask for other people who knew. It seemed like they wanted to, be the ones to kind of use our child to be the tester, and that wasn't going to happen. Inconsistency of information, just endocrine, kind of all over the place. No one really could give me an exact number. I know they're working on standardizing that right now, which would be awesome for families. And then getting testing for the HLA and bone marrow matching. While we were waiting, we just had to do as much as possible, and we had read, and we had seen about gene therapy. So we wanted to have our eldest son tested with Brody so we could see if they were matched. This way, and that wound up being kind of a problem. No one really could help us with that, the local doctors. So our pediatrician actually did help us. And then we got the results, and we're like, well, I don't know what this means. But thank God we were able to email Eichler's team, and they were able to get us the information that they are not a match. Then just some helpful resources, ALD Connect, I can't stress the support groups on Facebook have been awesome. You meet a lot of people. Brian's Hope, Aiden Jack Seeger Foundation, the Myelin Project, Bluebird Bio, Help Fight ALD, the Stop ALD Foundation. And then just future needs and opportunities. It would be nice if at diagnosis, if when they fax the result, they fax a little bit of information or a handout for the family just saying, you know, this isn't a death sentence, you know, and just give some kind of hope, even if it was just one sheet of paper. Educational resources for local physicians. I just feel like if they're going to give you local physicians, they're the ones that are going to be streamlined that you're going to use. They should know a little bit more. Then support groups for newborn screening. The support groups have been great. They could also be a little scary at times. I feel like we need more people talking about the good cases, like, you know, some people I've spoken to here today, their sons have gone through bone marrow or they're asymptomatic teenagers. It just would be nice to hear like hope, because on the support group you kind of have to read, and sometimes you'll get a man will write, oh, I'm 50 and I have no symptoms, and I'm like, oh, thank God, you know. It would just be nice to have a little bit more of those stories out there. And obviously national newborn screening, and of course the cure. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks so much,
You're
Tara.
welcome.
That was wonderful. I want to give people a chance just to, I think you already addressed a lot of questions around what we need.
Hi, Bill Grohl. I'm really happy to hear your presentation. I just wanted to make a comment. I'm interested in that you like to hear the positive stories. I have two boys that have ALD, both with the exception of hydrocortisone or asymptomatic. One's a sophomore in college, so there is good stories out there. But I struggle sometimes in this setting with how vocal I should be about my good story. So happy to talk to anybody that likes to hear some of those things. It's just a little uncomfortable for me sometimes to share that out loud.
I mean, I know I've spoken to a lot of the newborn moms, and, you know, you feel obviously this guilt because you are so lucky and there are parents that aren't lucky, and so you do feel bad. But it would be nice because the ALD, you know, newborn screen moms and families, there's going to be more of us, and just like seeing that there's hope. And because I always have to step back, and Dr. Eichler has to tell me at every appointment, it's not going to be Brody, it's not going to be Brody, we're going to do the MRI, we'll catch it early. He has to tell me at every appointment because the support groups are good, but you see so many stories and you get so scared, and I mean, you get like enthralled in some of the stories, and I mean, I've had days where like I just cry and cry, and my husband's like, you have to get off the support group. I'm like, yeah, but it is really helpful too. But it's hard because then you get like, you know, you like feel like you know these families, and it, you know, it gets really emotional, and you feel bad, like, you know, that you have this knowledge, but at the same time, you know, I'd like to hear some good stories too. I know a lot of the moms would like to hear good stories.
Yeah, so part of this is the challenge of being a community together, and knowing how, you know, we want to share and we want to speak across different plights, and that knowing that different people are affected differently, and that there is a bridge that connects us all, even though we might be, you know, on a different path. So I hear what you're saying, and I think that is part of the challenge of building a community. And I would sort of you know, make a plea for if there is a chance for all of us to sort of say, you know, there's something that we all will, you know, pass through in terms of suffering and grief that's universal. It happens just at different stages in our lives, so we can still all learn from each other. But I think the newborn experience is so new to this community at large, and we need to learn from you how to navigate this, because there is so much about, you know, anxiety about the future, and how to properly interact, engage. And there are, as engaged as you are, there are many families who are, you know, in denial or wanting to step away from it all, understandably.
Understandably.
And how do we manage that. And we're building tools, and we'll now hear about the patient portal, and we would love to have guidance from you how to properly roll out the kinds of surveys and in a staggered manner that is something that's helpful and not felt as an additional burden. No?
Definitely. Definitely.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing your story. It sounds like your family became aware of it and your sister got her testing. How extensive was it? Has AMN now been identified in your more extended family?
My mom hasn't been tested yet, but I'm pretty certain she has gait issues. She's had incontinence issues. She's always had. They tested her for MS. She's been tested for multiple things. So I would put all my money she's a carrier.
How about on the male side of the family? Anything?
No, nothing on the male side. No, not for my dad.
Great, thanks, Tara. So, sorry.
I just wondered, is there a newborn screen Facebook page?
There is. There's only like 4 of us on it, and we all text each other as it is, so we don't really use it that much because no one has joined. So there's kind of a bunch of us moms that text each other a lot, so we do a lot of group texting. And then we're like, oh, we should start a newborn screen mom page just from one of the ALD Connect calls, but no one's really joined it. So if you are,
I would like to join.
Yeah, join.
Our story is, I couldn't have been more similar to, I think, the way that you found out. Is there a way, I guess 2 questions, it felt, or a comment, it felt like our pediatrician almost had to go look it up.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if she did, but it felt like in our phone call, like it was new information to her. So with the newborn screening, is there a way to work with the state that when they're giving this diagnosis to someone, that there's something that goes along with it, and even if it's just for the doctor?
Absolutely. We're working on white papers in order to part of the mission of ALD Connect is to put out guidelines and white papers that will help raise awareness and establish guidelines that will hopefully help both the provider but also the families understand in a stepwise fashion what awaits and what kind of monitoring is needed, so that things can be done in the right way. Kathleen? Sorry, I don't know.
I just wanted to note that work group 4, which is our patient outreach work group, that anyone here is free to join, has been working on discussing putting together plans to put together an ALD Connect flyer aimed at newborn screening moms, and even we've talked about different ideas of kind of token things that if we were allowed to get in touch with the families or if we can give us a brochure that gets handed out to disseminated to families and then they reach us, then we would love to give them a token of ALD Connect, a beacon of hope, a line of communication, and a lifeline to hope and information and better stories. So I invite everyone here, if you're interested and you obviously have these experiences with your own newborn screening diagnosis, that I encourage you to join the monthly work group 4 call, because there is a lot of interest and we saw the need immediately and we're trying to help, but we got a little stalled. So
yeah, that would definitely be awesome, because we had even asked our the geneticist. We said, well, is there anyone else in Connecticut? Do you have their phone number? Can we call them? And they're like, no, we can't, HIPAA. But it would be nice. Thank God I had joined the support group and was given information on other moms and was able to talk to them. And I wound up meeting a lot of parents at like Aiden's ride, so we wound up connecting with a lot of families that way too.
Hi, I wanted to say, for someone who never did public speaking, you were wonderful. Never, ever feel guilty when you talk to parents like us that come before you. Never, ever. It just does our hearts so good to see you up there, and different story. One thing, and I'd like to address, I would really like to see an endocrinologist here as maybe a future meeting. I really think that we need to. Our biggest...
Real quick, we have the
the last speaker of the day is an endocrinologist who's coming from
sorry,
Kennedy Krieger.
I beg. My bad. But the thing is, our biggest thing, having gone through transplant and all the fears that you have and everything, our biggest concern is the adrenal insufficiency. And we, on a daily basis, knowing that and looking at some of the figures and, you know, I will talk to you afterwards, some of the things to watch for. Let you know that my first son was 2.5 when he had his first adrenal crisis. Nobody recognized what it was. He was fine up till the age of 5. I mean, he may have had some things in between. We thought they were just, you know, regular illness. My son, Sean, that's here, he's 13 years old. We were very proactive in watching him and all the data that was out there. Okay, we're going to watch this kid. He turns 4, we're going to watch him like a hawk. He was barely 3 years and a couple of months when he had his first adrenal crisis. But I recognized it right away because I knew what happened to my other. I saw it. It's totally different than being a regular sickness, which you still have to look out for, you know, meaning stress dose and stuff like this. This is something that's uncontrollable, throwing up. Not even a sip of water will go down without that child. And you get him to the emergency room and you stand there and say, this child needs stress dose steroids ASAP, no matter what they tell you. Just put your foot in the door and please God, like everything will be fine. I don't think you have too much to worry. It sounds like you have a lot of support. Just one other thing to add. Back when my other son was diagnosed in 2003, my son may as well have had leprosy for the amount of support that we got. It's just like unreal. People complain about Facebook and internet. Oh my God, they're just such a lifesaver these days for, you know, for everybody connected.
Yeah,
it was, but anyway, it's wonderful to hear from you.
Thanks again, Donna.
Thanks.